Welcome back. Weeds can be a serious problem for ranchers all across the country. Cattleman to Cattleman reporter Sharon Alseth gives us a closer look at one particular weed that can frustrate producers, as well as the best way to battle this nuisance.
As the value of forage has increased, so has the value of good forage management. Many ranchers know firsthand that in order to be a successful cattle producer, you must first be a successful grass farmer.
Grass is the most important thing we do. I think we're in the grass business, not the cattle business. You got to have grass to raise cattle.
A few times I met my wife's grandfather before he passed away. He spent more time driving around this place, looking out the window, chewing on a cigar, looking at various types of grass, and not showing me cattle. I thought, well, hey, you're a cowboy, where's the cows? But he impressed on me very early on how important it was to spend your money and your time growing good pastures full of grass.
Weeds are one of the factors that can affect forage quality. These unwanted plants compete for light, water, and nutrients and are often more aggressive than the desired forage species. Weeds diminish the quality and quantity of the forage available, and certain weed species are potentially poisonous to grazing animals.
The ranchers put a lot of effort into establishing their forages, and it's a big investment. So it's not something they want to hurt in the long term by letting the weeds come in and invade.
It reduces grazing area, and you take your grazing area, and that's how you determine, your cow carrying capacity. You base it on what you have, and maybe what you anticipate having in the future.
We're constantly having to spend money on controlling all the invasive species that we have. Well, they take grass away from us. Our cows, like where the briar patches are, the cattle won't feed there.
One particularly troublesome plant is blackberry. Many acres of pasture land across the U.S. are infested with blackberry, and its stubborn nature makes it difficult to remove. Blackberry thickets have dense canopies, which discourage growth of pasture grass, and cattle avoid the plants due to their thorns. If the brambles are allowed to become established, the amount of usable grazing land is significantly reduced.
It's pretty much throughout the U.S. You'll find it from Florida all the way out up into the Midwest and out west as well. Most people think of them as perennial species, and it's true in that the root system is perennial, but what you see above ground is actually biennial. So the canes that come up in one year, they just grow. The next year is when they flower and produce the fruit. Then they will actually die, and you get new canes coming up that produce new fruit the next year.
It grows in clumps and will get, waist high or better, and the cattle just won't penetrate it. It has good grass underneath it in some areas. Some areas it doesn't, but the animals won't, it's really thorny and they won't eat around it. So as it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, you lose more and more good grazing grass.
Those little suckers put out lots of seeds, and they seem to go everywhere, and they don't seem to die very easily. Once you think you got it under control, you don't. You get that in 1 or 2 acre patches, and what it does is it effectively wipes out or shuts down the growth of any grass.
There are actually several types of blackberry, an upright version that most ranchers deal with, the tall, arching Himalayan and evergreen blackberry varieties of the Pacific Northwest, and then a low-growing, trailing type that's known as Dewberry. Producers often confuse blackberry and dewberry, but the overall plant appearance and growth habits of these two species are quite different.
This is dewberry. This is more of a trailing blackberry type species. It's not really blackberry, it is dewberry. Blackberry will be more upright in growth. You can see this plant is more prostrate, growing along the ground. And what you have with dewberry is usually these big dark green leaves, which they aren't green right now because we've actually been cold in Florida. And then these red stems, which is a good characteristic for dewberry. So this is the more upright type blackberry. You can see it's not spreading across the ground. The stems are actually green on this one, and there's no hair on the stems, but it does have those sharp spines. That's characteristic of the blackberry type species. So this is the one that we call sand blackberry in Florida. There is another one that we have. The stems aren't as green, they tend to be a little bit more red, kind of like dewberry was, but it is an upright species again. It does have those sharp spines on it, but instead of having 3 leaves like the sand blackberry, this one has 5 leaves coming out. I call this high bush blackberry.
Welcome back. Let's return to reporter Sharon Alseth, who's learning how to combat a specific weed that's very frustrating to a lot of cattlemen.
Although blackberry and dewberry briars are common invaders in many pastures, they can be controlled. Mechanical methods may temporarily appear to do the job, but they are labor-intensive and costly. Herbicides provide quick-acting, proven control that will kill weeds all the way down to the roots. Dow Agrosciences offers a full line of products to suit nearly any rangeland or pasture management situation, and Chaparral provides effective, consistent blackberry control.
Chaparral has actually been a really good herbicide for blackberry control, mainly because of the metsulfuron component of that herbicide. We found that metsulfuron actually provides a little bit longer control than Remedy or Pasture Guard. Well, dewberries are, they're different. I don't know that they're different biologically so much, but they're different in their growth habit. And for some reason, it seems to be a little bit more tolerant than the blackberry to the herbicides that we have. We've had good success with the metsulfuron containing products, but regardless, you're going to have to come back and treat it, sequentially for at least 2 to 3 years to get rid of the patch.
There are several keys to remember when it comes to good blackberry control. The first is to remove the top growth from the stand so you get good, consistent spray coverage. Once the blackberry has been mowed, shredded, or burned, you should delay herbicide treatment at least 6 months to allow enough regrowth to carry the herbicide down to the roots and kill the plant. Also, don't mow dead-looking blackberry too soon after spraying. Wait at least 6 months to allow the herbicide time to reach the roots. Remember, patience is a virtue when it comes to blackberry control.
I think with weed control in general, you have to have a little bit of patience, but blackberries specifically, they can become really frustrating. Keep in mind that when you have a blackberry problem, it's not a problem that showed up overnight. It took several years to get there. It's going to take you at least 2 or 3 to get back, to where the pasture used to be.
Patience is definitely key because everybody thinks that you can mow them and you're just going to keep knocking them back, but that's not the case. We weren't making much headway, so we had the Dow rep come out and help me, and she made some recommendations for us to do different things. Basically not mow it and to do the spray application in the fall, and it's really made a difference. We're getting down now where it's not much of a problem at all.
The product works as long as you apply it at the right time and in the right conditions. It has done a good job. As I said, this pasture was chocker-block full of the stuff. It's very difficult for cattle to graze it appropriately, and now it's fairly well under control, and we're satisfied with the results we've seen in these sort of situations.
The top producers are always working to improve not only their cattle herd, but also their grasses by eliminating weed competition and thorny problems such as invasive blackberry.
Dow products, they've been very beneficial in keeping our pastures clean and weed-free. It cleans up our pasture and we have more usable grass for our animals.
I'm telling you that without their products, these properties you see here would not look like this, or the pastures that you drive by getting here or leaving here. So it's been a valuable investment for us.
Reporting from Florida, I'm Sharon Alseth for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
You can find more information on controlling blackberries with Chaparral at rangeandpasture.com. And remember to always read and follow labeled directions.